The plight of the girl child. Age-old problems that we're still dealing with in this day and time. If you are just joining us, that is the conversation that we are about to have, and we welcome you to be part of this conversation using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1. Ever remains our official station handle. My handle is Jane Maboy, and our SMS number is 20154. Our Facebook page is also up and running at KBC Channel 1 TV is how you can find us. Now, I have two fantastic guests with me in studio this morning to help with that discussion, and of course you at home as well can be part of this discussion. But here in studio we have with us, to my immediate left, we have Mercy Chege, who is the Director of Program Strategy, Quality and Development, working with Plan International. Karibu sana.
Asante.
And next to her, to my extreme left, we have Charles Kimel, who is the County Representative working with the World Bicycle Relief. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Jane.
Glad to have you guys with us this morning.
Happy to be here.
I'll start with you guys. Maybe you're going to let us know your organization's social media handles and how guys can get in touch with you via the social media platform.
At worldbicyclerelief.org, both for our Twitter as well as our Instagram page.
All right.
Yes.
What about Plan International?
At Plan International Kenya, both on Twitter and Facebook page.
All right.
Yeah.
So once again, as I always say, any questions or comments that you feel you may not be able to share with us here on this national platform, feel free to interact with our guests on the social media platforms. So before we get deeper into the conversation, let's just start by understanding what each organization does. And I'll start with you, Mercy. Plan International, a brief overview of what Plan International is all about.
Okay, thank you so much. Plan International is a child-focused organization with a very big bias for girls.
Yeah.
Because we have realized the vulnerabilities of girls. We work in 11 counties across the country, and we do protection, economic empowerment for young women and their families. We do education support, climate change programs. But I think most of all, we work with partners, especially to amplify the voices of the young people and especially girls. So that they can be able to talk about what matters to them most. Yes.
All right. World Bicycle Relief. For some of our viewers, they might be hearing it for the first time. So a brief overview on what the organization does.
Sure, a brief overview. World Bicycle Relief is an organization that seeks to transform communities through the power of bicycles. So we do realize, and World Bank has stated that we have 1 billion people living in rural areas. We have about 70% of that population with us here in Africa.
Yeah.
They have no access to all-season roads, reliable transportation options, and so you can imagine this definitely limits these communities' ability to thrive as well as develop in the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So for us as an organization, our aim is really to be able to see how we can be able to address that challenge of distance, and it's through the power of bicycles, through the power of Buffalo bicycles.
Okay.
Just some small history on where we began.
Absolutely.
2005 is when WBR was founded by FKD and his wife. This was a response after the Indian Ocean tsunami that we had hit Sri Lanka. And quite a number of lives were affected. People died. We had quite a number of displaced survivors. So as a philanthropist and given his background in biking, he thought, how do I give back to the community and how do I support them to get back to their feet? He went to the local market, looked at the bicycles present, and he said, you know what? These bicycles will crumble within 6 months, and they would not meet the intended purpose. So he challenged his engineers to come up with a design of a bicycle, the very bicycle you've seen one of the beneficiaries ride to school.
Yeah.
You notice the bicycle has a dipping bar. Well, that is with the end user in mind, and our end user being, of course, a lot of focus on women and girls. So to enable them to get easily on and off the bicycle, we came into Zambia in 2006 or 7 thereabout, and supported community health volunteers with bicycles. Retention rates went up from 50 to 95%.
Yeah.
And the demand of the bicycle from that point on grew, and we have expanded our market through to Zimbabwe, Malawi, Kenya, and 19 other countries worldwide.
We can never say good is never enough. You know, there's always room to do more.
Indeed. And
that is exactly what you guys are in line. But you just watching that very quick feature, you know, some of these problems that our young girls face on a daily have been there through time immemorial. As Plan International, how does this? Why do you think we're still facing such problems with our young girls, especially early pregnancies and forced marriages?
I think the world has moved, but I think our culture has yet to move. And that's the problem that we are having. And then, of course, you know, you have issues like HIV/AIDS that leaves the girls very vulnerable when they have to take care of their ailing parents, and they also have to take care of their siblings. I don't think the ground is quite level for the girls yet, not in very many parts of Kenya. If you look at parts like in Seme, in Kisumu, Homa Bay, and Siaya, where we are working on with the World Bicycle Relief on the project on bicycle empowerment and education program, you realize that there's still the notion that girls should take care of their siblings, and before they go to school there is a list of things that they're supposed to do because their parents have to go. You have very many girl-headed families, grandmother-headed families, and some father-headed families and grandfather-headed families, which leaves a lot of burden on the girls to take care of their siblings even as they go to school. If you look at also the kind of chores that the girls have to do before they go to school, it's quite heavy on them. And you realize that sometimes even concentrating on classwork is not...
becomes a problem.
It becomes a problem because you have to do work at home and then you travel to school 6, 7, 10 kilometers. You come back in the evening, you still have to cook their cows, their goats, their children, and the opportunities for girls to thrive in education are really minimized by the fact that they have a lot more to do than the boys at home.
So we are struggling with some of these retrogressive cultural practices that we have held on tight to.
Yes, we have.
That really affect the girls mostly.
Yeah, and you also realize that it's a quick solution for a girl to be married off so that the family can get the dowry and be able to take the boys to school. It might sound funny, but I'm telling you, in some of the areas where we work, in Nyanza, in Coast, in Kajiado, in the Rift Valley, some parts of the Rift Valley, you realize that those things are still dear to, you know, to the communities. And as much as we want to say, oh no, you know, the girls are now more empowered than the boys, I really don't think so.
It's true, because there was a story about a certain mother who married off an 8-year-old girl so that she could educate the brothers.
Exactly.
But what does that even go on to say, the fact that, you know, looking at now the parents, the fact that you can consider one of your children to marry them off to fend for the others? What does that say about parenting in this day and time, at least from where you sit?
Well, I mean, when I really think about the fact that boys are favored within various communities, not only in Africa, India as well.
Cuts across the world.
Yes, it cuts across the world. I mean, in some instances, you find women are actually being barred from knowing the sex of their child because some of them want to abort the child before.
Cases of feticide in India.
It's terrible. So, in my opinion, that's why we do what we're doing. That's what's formed the very core of this partnership. If you look at the BEEP program, the Bicycle Education Empowerment Program, our focus is 70% on the girl child. We understand they're the most vulnerable. As Mercy has said, I mean, you're looking at 6, 7 Ks to school each day. That's 2 to 3 hours of walking.
Imagine.
And it definitely puts them on their back foot. So we're not saying that they are no longer fetching water or firewood. These are cultural practices, and it takes quite a bit of time to get people to the point when they realize kids are equal. I mean, your sons can wash dishes. Your sons can help fetch water. And a lot of parents are also stepping up and realizing, well, in old age, my sons are not taking care of me well. The daughters I looked and shunned upon are actually the ones coming back and saying, Daddy or Mommy, let me take care of you in old age.
It's a pretty sad situation that, you know, some of this, there's this biasness that comes from parents that is so deeply rooted that is going to take some time to actually get rid of. And you know,
you see when you start with a boy when they're 2 years old, to tell them you shouldn't be in the kitchen. At 5 years old, they start sending their sisters to the kitchen. At 12 years old, they can't even step in the kitchen. But you know, the thing is, as parents, and when you look at the way that we are treating our children, it's sad that I can take so much time to educate my house help. By the way, I'm a mother of boys. So you can imagine that I have a house help who does everything for them, and they don't know how to cook, to wash for themselves. And in their young adulthood, I send them off to, you know, to go and work. And then what happens?
Crisis.
Yes, exactly. Because they can't wash, they can't cook, and they start eating in hotels, and soon enough you're realizing even our young men have to come back home because they can't manage themselves.
Imagine.
I mean, we are disabling our own people in the spirit of, you know, boys to be boys and girls to be girls.
And these are basic life skills.
They are basic life skills.
We all need to know how to cook,
actually,
to wash, to clean up ourselves.
I actually posted on my Facebook page today in the morning, somebody asked a question in a forum, should men cook for their families? And I'm like, cooking is for people who eat. It's not for men or women. I mean, something should go without saying that girls are not meant to cook, and men are not only meant to eat, you know. It's a very bad, it's a very wrong perception of the way we look at the gender.
Yeah. But we can't entirely blame this on culture. Can we?
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah?
Yeah, maybe not. I think for those who've been able to look at things differently and value their children equally, I think it's no longer a discussion who washes the dishes, who cooks, who removes the dishes after we have eaten from the table and put them in the sinks. It's no longer a discussion. It's how do we live well together in a family? How do I empower you to have the survival skills that even if I send you away as a boy or a girl, you can be able to survive, you can cook for yourself, you can clean up your house, you can wash your clothes, and you won't come back asking me for a washing machine that I can't afford, that I even don't have, you know?
Or going back home for dinner every morning. Driving all the way to go grab a container of food because you do not know how to cook.
Exactly.
Now, let's look at some of these challenges that have still remained to be a problem that really affect our young girls. Let's just start with, reproductive health. It is one of the biggest problems that so many young girls are facing in this day and time. Part of the problem that, needs to be addressed and needs to be addressed very soon. Looking at just what we have watched, then let me start with you. As a man, how does this even resonate with you, the fact that some of our young girls, and when you talk about the plight of the girl child, we're talking about mostly those who are under 18, because they're the ones who are most considered children, at least globally. How does this even resonate with you as a man, the fact that, there's such a big knowledge gap and information gap when it comes to reproductive health rights for our young girls?
Parents have to sit with their children.
Yeah?
I know it's almost a taboo topic when you get to rural communities, but we need to get past that. We need to involve the parents as closely as possible, and we need to be able to speak to our girls. I mean, if we're looking at 8 to 10-year-olds, right now they have a lot of access to information. The internet is rampant with everything.
Yeah.
And what we think they do not know, they already know. And they may be seeing it from the wrong side and the wrong angle of things. If you're looking at a lot of the girls we're supporting, they're vulnerable groups. When you're looking at issues around their safety, they're easily coerced by border riders, by a few words and promises of marriage. Sometimes it's even...
Or some luxuries.
Even just some luxuries, simple luxuries, such as even meals, which really saddens me. And for us, as men, of course, I do feel we are letting the entire community down, preying on those who are weaker instead of actually empowering them. So when we're looking at the issue of girl safety, the distances, the frustrations, I mean, I can understand definitely if you're spending about 5 hours of your time on the road, someone comes and promises you marriage. A lot of these girls are saying, you know what?
Rides.
Yes, for free rides. I mean, some of these girls are saying, you know what? Why do I keep going to school? Let me just get married, I'll settle down and, begin a happy family. But in a few years, this same man will begin to abuse her because he then wants a more educated woman. He then realizes, okay, you're not contributing economically towards this family. And no, we want an empowered girl. When we give a bicycle into each one of these girls' hands, they're empowered, they feel some new level of self-esteem, some new level of understanding that, hey, as far as I'm in Seme County, and we have donors from all over the world. We have organizations such as World Bicycle Relief and Plan rallying behind me to complete my education. Well, I can tell you they do complete their education. And in the next foreseeable future years, I'm not sure when that would be, I'd be excited to see some of these girls even participate in the Commonwealth Games. Who knows? Olympics, who knows? We may be just creating champions here. Not just academic champions, but all-round champions.
Giving them some sense of control back.
Indeed.
Yes. Now, still on the conversation about men, there are families that, there aren't mothers necessarily. There are father-led families, grandfather-led families that you have just mentioned. Now, looking at that category, and there are young girls in such families, what more do you think needs to be done to sort of bring the men into this conversation about reproductive health for their girls? Because ultimately, when you're you are the leader of that house, when you are the point of reference of information to your child, it goes a long way in helping you and helping the child.
True. I like what Charles has said, that we have to bring these discussions on the table, because we normally don't discuss issues to do with sexuality in our homes.
We tend to separate the boys and the girls.
That's the thing. And even when we separate them, I don't think we are quite comfortable talking about sexuality with our children, whether they are boys or girls, and whether we are mothers or fathers. And there lies in the problem, because you realize that if you have a father-headed family, and there are many of them, because you know, mothers die, fathers die, and one parent is left in charge. If that girl cannot be able to go to the father to ask for sanitary pads, and if the father has no clue where they are bought and whether they are important and why can't you do without,
or how to even wear it.
Yeah, that's the thing. And after that, the girl will say, instead of going to my father, I would rather go and get a boyfriend who provides my pads on a monthly basis, and there they go and get pregnant. So I think the discussions have to be brought on the table, and it's not just about the young people being told do this and don't do this. It's also about parents being told, be aware that your children are going through this and this developmental stage. In whatever language, mother tongue, the simplest language ever, parents need to understand that there are some things in life that happen to their children they need to be part of. And it shouldn't be embarrassing for a father to put 100 shillings every month on the girl's school bag and say, I put some money there, that's not for your fare, that is for anything else you need, including your sanitary pads. It should be an honest discussion. Because this is, why are we afraid of talking about something that is so biological, and we know that it happens, you know? We should just be honest about it, so that it stops becoming a mystery that girls use sanitary pads and boys need to understand that their sisters use sanitary pads. It's not rocket science. We all know.
We're all talking
about this. It's part of biology lessons. So why don't we talk about them so openly, and so that we demystify womanhood, and it is possible for women and girls to live and to walk about without people feeling like, oh, that's a woman, that's a human being. Let's start from there. Who needs to go to school, who needs to eat, who needs to be loved, who needs to be appreciated, and who does not need to be laughed at every time they are on menses, because if they miss school, then it must be that they are on their menses because they don't have sanitary pads. Or if I give them a ride, it's because at the end of the month they'll need money for the sanitary pads, and therefore I'll take advantage of them.
There's something to gain.
Exactly. So I think if these discussions are put on the table, then it stops becoming a mystery. Girls get more free with their fathers and even with their grandfathers, and this help starts coming. I think it's very important. The other thing probably is away from home, the government also has a responsibility. I know there is an effort for them to supply sanitary pads in school, and sometimes we know that it's never enough. But also we have the youth-friendly spaces at our health facilities, which are supposed to offer information and services on sexual and reproductive health. And this is the place where it should be so open and so friendly that anybody who wants information about their sexuality can get it from a professional. Because all these changes that come to the bodies, sometimes the parents will not understand them, but you need somebody who can be able to explain to you what is happening to your body and what should you be prepared for, and how should you behave, how should you treat yourself, and what are the risks of engaging in, casual sex and all that. Because sometimes, girls think that they are sick when they start their menses, because their teachers, the curriculum is so heavy, the teacher just want to concentrate on school.
Passes through it.
And the parents are like, you will hear this from school. At the end of the day, nobody gets to tell them.
There is an information gap that needs to be handled.
And they get to hear it from all sorts of people. I remember talking to some girls from Kisumu, some of our young mothers, and they were like, I did not know I was pregnant until my grandmother told me I am pregnant. Because somebody told me that if we do something with you, then it means that you will not get the blood anymore. And she went ahead and had sex, her first sexual experience, and she got pregnant. Then after that, the grandma told her, do you know you're pregnant? She was like, what is pregnant? You're going to give birth to a baby. And she was like, no, I'm not. The discussion started there. Now, fortunately, she's in school. She's one of our champions. She's a great girl. And just to talk about what Charles has said about us creating champions, those girls are actually champions, especially the ones you can see, the ones who are riding the bicycles. Some of them, we have sent them out of the country to go and tell their story and make you know, people believe in them so that they can still continue supporting their project. So they are vocal, they have been in studios. I'm sure some of them have been here once in a while. They are vocal and they want to tell their story and they want to make sure that no other girl goes through what they went through. So let's put the conversations on the table.
As is. On the table.
Exactly.
And that brings me to this whole conversation of this early and planned pregnancies among our younger girls. Yes, there is an information gap that needs to be addressed, but now we have girls who are in that situation.
Yeah.
And there's so much trauma that comes with this. Most of them, some of them do not get the opportunity to go back to school because for some that is the end of education.
Yeah.
Now is to go home, start raising this kid. Now we find a situation, mtoto analea mtoto.
Yeah.
Most of them face so much rejection, so much backlash from the community and even with their parents. When it comes to dealing with this trauma for these young girls, especially when it comes to the reintegration process, both at home, at school, we just had a case of one who had to run away to the sister and only to come back home much later.
Yeah.
That whole process of just working with them and dealing with that trauma when it comes to the reintegration process, what more do you think needs to be done to just encourage and protect this category? Because for most of them, it is the lack of knowledge.
Indeed. Well, the lack of knowledge, this lack of knowledge, and now they know. They are an information hub. For them to be actually advocates and champions, to be able to speak to their peers and educate them, you know, peer-to-peer conversations are much more simpler, and people are able to also work and realize some of the different challenges that they would go through if they do not watch their steps carefully. Being able to also then garner support. I understand a lot of these families are vulnerable. You find in some cases it's father-led or mother-led, or in other cases even grandparents are the ones in charge. I think just having that support system where the grandparents are able then to, of course, support as it relates to taking care of this child. The new curriculum allows girls to get back to school, which is fantastic. I'm happy that they're not being ostracized and pushed to the side. I think Plan also has separate programs that address and seek to establish some income-generating activities for young mothers as well. You see, because some of them, the reality is they will not be able to get to school. You are alone, you're probably even an orphan. So how do we empower you with skills to be able to then be able to economically generate enough to take care of you and your young one? So for us, we need to be able to work with the ministries, with the various development partners, to be able to then say, okay, if there is no support system in place, what can we do? How much more and how much farther could we take this process? So we are currently in discussions and seeing how we can then be able to work through a bicycle program, through some of the mechanic training programs that we have. We're happy to report that we have women who are actually female trained mechanics. I know it's not the norm, but like last year towards the end we trained 24 female mechanics aged between about 20 to 24. This is going to create some opportunities for them to be able to fend for themselves.
All right, and you'll be telling us more about some of those projects that are underway, all go towards helping these young girls become economically dependent on themselves. And let me start with even Plan International, looking at all these problems that are there, because the problems will still be there. We cannot do away with them today. Just I came across a report yesterday that said, you know, when it comes to gender equality, we have at least 95.6 years before we get there, globally speaking. You can imagine that.
True.
But it starts with the steps we're making back here home. Maybe from where Plan International sits, what are some of those projects that you guys are putting in place that will go a long way in helping these young girls who have been through early pregnancies, forced marriages, you know, being chosen to stay at home as opposed to being educated with the fact that they're just a girl, to just better protect them, better empower them, and put them in a position where they can actually take care of themselves?
Thank you. There are very many projects, and I think one of the best ones is taking the girls back to school so that they can get their footing, and so that they can realize that they and the society to realize that a teenage pregnancy is not a death sentence for the girl, and it doesn't have to be. So there is the education program where, fortunately, because of the school re-entry policy, girls are allowed to go back to school. I think that is one of our most successful projects. But you also have like the empowerment project, the financial empowerment projects for girls who cannot go to school. And not those who cannot go to school, even those who are married before the age of 18. We have very many of them. We have an FGM project in Kajiado and another one in Tharaka. And especially the Kajiado project is one where we have actually taken girls from home, talked with their husbands and their community elders. Can we just take these girls to school for 3 months, and you see whether there will be a difference in their lives. You take them to a residential training. We have partnerships, and they stay there for 3 months. We get them internships, and then after that, they go back to the community. And you'll be surprised about the reception by the community.
Yeah.
Husbands coming for graduations with 7-month-old babies who are left at home by their mothers. Somebody says, if it is true what you're saying, let me test with my, with this wife, and then I will let you know whether you can get the other one. And then I remember one of the young Morans coming to say, and he came with his full regalia for the wife's graduation. And there was a stepmother now who came with a baby, a 7-month-old baby. And he asked the girl, this was only for 3 months. Do you think you can have another 3 months? And the principal said, there's a diploma for 2 years. And was like, how many cows do I have to sell to pay for the 2 years? We were so excited. So the economic empowerment, but also I think the most important, it is the emotional and psychological resilience building in the girls, to believe in themselves and to believe that they can do it. Because when you support them and you tell them this is not your place, the society has put you there, but you don't have to remain there. There's something you can do about it. And you help them to talk about it, and you help them to realize that they too can dream and go for their dreams. I think that is the most powerful one. Of course, there's a protection project all around the girls' issues, where you teach them how to, after you listen to them, you let them find solutions to their problems, because I think that is more empowering than looking for the solutions themselves. And of course, we have the Sexual and Reproductive Health Project, where we help them to access information about their sexuality, menstrual health. We work with the Ministry of Education to make sure that the youth-friendly spaces at the health facilities are working and information is flowing. We have the schools project, where we make sure that we have a partnership with the government, especially the Teacher Service Commission, to come up with a whole project for protecting children in schools, training teachers that when they come here, they have all their issues, and some of them are young man. They need to find safety in this school so that they can remain. So we have projects for parents, projects for teachers, and projects for communities and for the girls themselves, and for the boys and the men, because they have to support the girls to thrive.
They're part of the conversation.
They are part of the conversation.
And speaking of awareness, and maybe in line with some of the projects that World Bicycle Relief, World Relief Bicycle are
World Bicycle Relief.
I said it right.
Yes.
Yes. No, when it comes to the awareness levels and just letting the young girls and the community know that there are these avenues, because for some of them, they might not know that there are these avenues that they can go to get assistance and be part of this project. What do you think needs to be done to just encourage that awareness, or rather to amplify awareness on some of these projects that are there?
Well,
briefly.
Yeah, sure, no problem. When you're looking at our programs, I think, number one, as we hand over the bicycles, we have what we call a bicycle distribution ceremony. And it's during this point in time that we have parents present, teachers, the local community, and you'll find as the girls are handed the bicycle, then they're honored in front of all fellow members of that very same community. And the body that governs this bicycle program is called the BSC. It's a body that is formed in partnership with Plan, as well as our various other partners on the ground. We have student representatives within the BSC. We have teachers, we have esteemed leaders such as church leaders within that same BSC. And the children are then able to have their voice better heard, because you can't then come to a student, a girl, and just tell her exactly what her challenges are. You need to be able to sit with her at the table and listen, and create that power, place that power within her hands to be able to speak on behalf of her as well as the rest of the girls. So being able to have that champion within these communities, I can tell you, is definitely going a long way. Yes, so we definitely are looking at everything we do as being community-led. We like to be able to go down to the field and be able to get to the root cause of everything.
All right. Yes. Now, as we bring the conversation to a close, maybe let me start with you again, Charles. When it comes to a way forward that will generally redirect this conversation about our young girls, those that cannot speak for themselves, your thoughts when it comes to that, a way forward when it comes to championing for our young girls? We
need the government to step up in terms of policy. We want better representation. We want better involvement with the issues that really do affect the communities at large.
Yeah.
I can tell you, if you look at the various indicators across the economy performing poorly, I can tell you, if you empower a girl, well, you've empowered the entire country and you've empowered the entire world. Yes.
All right. Your closing remarks in regards to just the way forward when it comes to protecting our young girls and giving them that platform to just thrive.
I would say, instead of giving the platform, let us remove the barriers that keep them from realizing their full potential, and let us make sure that every opportunity is available for both boys and girls, and especially let us not leave men and boys out of this conversation. They need to be there. But Kenya has very good policies. Let them be implemented. If we were to implement the policies we have on gender equality and on empowerment of young people, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's all there. It's in the Constitution. It's in our policies. Let's implement that.
They shouldn't just be pretty on paper.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
That brings us to a close of this discussion in regards to the plight of the young girls. So many young girls are in situations that they find themselves in due to the lack of information. But once the information is out there, what are we doing to better empower them to be able to be in a position that they can make decisions that are not just going to benefit them now, but in the long run? That is a conversation that we need to keep having. And of course, we cannot have it without involving our young boys, our youth out there, and also our fathers. So start where you are with what you have, and you never know, empower one young girl and you empower an entire community. And of course, we cannot fully exhaust this discussion in this one sitting. We are going to be having subsequent discussions in line with this topic. But for now, that brings us to a close of this discussion. I have been speaking with Charles Kimel, who is the county rep working with World Bicycle Relief. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Kindly remind us your organization's social media handles once more.
At worldbicyclerelief.org. That's for Twitter as well as Instagram.
All right. And of course, to my immediate left, we have Masi Chege, who is the Director of Program Strategy, Quality and Development, working with Plan International. Thank you so much. How can guys find you once more on social media?
At Plan International Kenya, that is for Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram page.
All right. Yes. There you have it. Once again, you can always get in touch with them, get to know what more they do and how you can be part of this movement.